My F28 fiancé M28 Alex has a female best friend, Danny 28, who he's known since they were 4. She's not like the usual Reddit BFF. She's a lovely, sweet person who has never crossed boundaries with Alex or their 2 other friends, Marcus and Daniel. The 4 are very close. Danny is gay and always was. She's very much a woman but likes to dress in jeans and t-shirts and not in any feminine clothing. She is lean, tall, has short hair, and is just one of the boys in a lot of ways. This weekend was Alex's bachelor party. All 4 plus 2 other of Alex's friends went along. It was to a coastal town that's well known for hosting bachelor and bachelorette parties, but there's no strip club or anything. They stayed in a B&B and have scuba diving and kayaking planned. First night went okay, dinner, restaurant, and nightclub and home. Last night was the issue. They did the nightclub and headed back to the house. Marcus and Daniel, who are both single, brought back 2 girls from the nightclub and got busy in their bedrooms. The rest were drinking in the living room, but things got a bit loud and the 2 friends started complaining that they didn't get to go to a strip club and never got to see *TS and ass. They were blaming their wives and calling them names. Danny told them to shush as it was ruining the mood, and they both thought it would be funny if they saw Danny's body naked to make up for it. The thing is, Alex joined in and they stripped her. She was screaming loudly and Marcus and Daniel came running and rescued Danny and put her in the bedroom with the girls and had a fight with the 3 men. Daniel doesn't drink due to a chronic medical condition and the medication he is on. So they packed up and took Danny and the 2 girls and left the other 3. Danny was hysterical and Marcus wanted her to go to the police, but she wouldn't. She was afraid to go home. So they ended up dropping the girls off and taking Danny to her parents, which was an hour away. Marcus was at my door at 7 a.m. this morning, and he told me what happened, that if he ever sees Alex again, he's afraid of how things could go. He told me that if he can convince Danny to press charges, he will. Then he left. Alex returned about 3 this afternoon. He was a ting normally until I told him Marcus has visited. He was very nervous and tried to play down what happened as a joke that got out of hand. I'm devastated. I heard him out, but he knew I wasn't accepting what he was saying. I told him Danny may be going to the police and he got very panicked and pale. He said she had him blocked and he wanted to go talk to her. I told him she wasn't at her place as she was too afraid he or his buddies would turn up there. I asked him to leave and he didn't want to go, but I insisted. He was crying, saying it was a prank that got out of hand. I heard him out only as a courtesy to our 2-year relationship, but I'm done. I don't know this man. I don't know if I should reach out to Danny or just do nothing. Marcus and I have been in constant contact, and he agrees that I have no option but to end things. I don't know where to start with canceling everything as the wedding was in 5 weeks, but it seems trivial compared to what Danny is going through right now. Marcus is convinced that Danny is going to the police after talking to her parents, so I think Alex is in trouble. I can't support him on this. Maybe I'm wrong, as he was drunk and probably had taken other things, but this was his friend from age 4, and he did this to her. I've not blocked Alex, but I've not replied or picked up any of his calls. Update 1. It's been a terrible day. I can't reach out to my friends yet as I'm ashamed. I did tell my parents and my brother, and they have been wonderful. My brother brought his friend with him when he came to stay, and today both of them packed up every bit of my ex's stuff and took it to his parents' house. X was there and just asked if that meant I was finished with him, and my brother said yes, and did he really expect any other reaction? His father intervened and told X not to say anything more. He told my brother to tell me to contact him on canceling the wedding. I'm not contacting his father ever. My parents are handling canceling the wedding, and my father got into my cousin, who is a lawyer, and he is going to help and advise me as needed. I have to disentangle myself from X on Lisa's bank account savings and such, although my brother made me transfer all of my money from joint account savings and daily accounts to my own account. It's a mess. I tried to ring Danny, but she isn't up for speaking to anyone, so I just text her that I was there for her and that I had broken up with Alex. She hasn't replied, and I don't expect she will. She's in a bad way, apparently. Daniel spent 3 hours with me today. There's a lot going on, but I'm afraid to say too much for fear of damaging any court case. Just to say, there are 2 videos of the incident. One by Jeb, one of the 2 friends. A lot of it is chaotic, but the last part is clear and telling apparently. The owners of the rental house apparently have gotten involved and have footage, but I can't say more. When Marcus left me, he went to both those guys' wives and told them what happened. Jeb's wife has been very helpful, apparently, and she has split from him. The other guy's wife too has left him. Things are going how most of you want them to go, that's all I will say. Well, I will add it was worse than what Marcus shared. Daniel told me that before Danny found her style, she had long hair and dressed feminine and was stunningly beautiful, and all 3 of them were in love with her as teens. Alex took her rejection very personally, apparently, and Daniel says he was angry and bitter for a couple of years, but hid it from her. The thought he had gotten over it, but Daniel feels this smacks of revenge against her. Scary if this is true. I have and continue to receive hundreds of texts from Alex. He told me his father told him to stop texting me, but he can't. I haven't replied or blocked based on advice. This is very hard, and I don't know what way all this is going to end up. Sorry about any mistakes and typos. I'm not doing well. If there's more, I will post again if I'm able. Update 2. I got a call from Danny. Daniel has been ever present, and I'm guessing it was because he knew she was going to call. There's a lot more to the story. The first night was normal as I said, but in the Saturday Alex, Jeb, and their friend decided not to go scuba diving with Danny, Daniel, and Marcus. Danny was feeling very hungover and gave up after an hour and went back to the Airbnb. She walked into the living room to find all 3 guys engaging in intimate acts with 2 women. Jeb shouted at her to get out as this was costing them a fortune. The women were escorts. She left and went back to the boat and only told Marcus what she saw. When they all went back later, Alex told her to not tell me as it was just his last bit of freedom. She told him she was disgusted with him and that he wasn't free. She told him she would have to think about what to do. Marcus convinced her to stay another night as he and Daniel had met the 2 girls the night before and were seeing them again that night, and if Danny wanted to leave, then Daniel would have to take her as he was her ride and there wasn't public transport in the tiny town. So Alex cheated, as did the other 2. Marcus told their wives that morning, but not me. He was going to do it in stages as he knew I was in shock. The actual assault went further than Marcus told me also. And while Alex hadn't actually done anything beyond pulling off her clothes, unlike the other 2, he stood by and watched and did nothing to help her. She said she thought he had taken shrooms earlier, but couldn't be sure. Marcus and Daniel did rescue her, but things had already escalated. She went to the police immediately she got to her parents. The Airbnb owners had also gone independently when they saw the footage. All 3 men are facing the consequences of their actions. Danny told me she was sorry she didn't tell me immediately like she wanted to do. She is very distraught. Still, I didn't want to make things worse for her. I don't think I am needed for any legal proceedings, so I finally blocked Alex and his parents. The wedding is canceled, and I'm just starting to disentangle myself from Alex on bank accounts and such. Here's my issue. I'm feeling very angry towards Marcus. It feels like he didn't really care about me. He stopped Danny from telling me so he could continue to shack up with the girl he met. He apparently feels guilty because if they had left, Danny would not have been attacked. He didn't do me the courtesy of telling me that Alex cheated that morning like he did with the other 2 wives. It's not like he was sparing my feelings because my ex assaulting another woman was a pretty damn bad thing to hear. He didn't tell me the full extent of the attack. Danny is still unsure if Alex wasn't just waiting his turn, or all he was going to do was watch. I should have been told that ASAP. And not from Danny because the conversation was incredibly difficult for her. Daniel didn't know about the escorts at all, and didn't know Marcus hasn't shared the full story of what they saw when they burst in. Daniel has been my rock. I need some perspective here. Is it okay to be angry at Marcus? Is it misplaced anger? I'm pretty angry at Alex though, and that's all I feel towards him. Can anyone give me a different perspective in missing? Marcus and I had been in constant contact. He's already back at work, so it was messages/texts and occasional calls. He actually visited last night, but I didn't open the door to him. Daniel is saying whatever I feel right now is okay, but I think he's just placating me. I don't know who to trust anymore. I don't have to have any more contact with Alex and think the case will move along without me. I'm thinking of telling Daniel that I need a break from him and Marcus and that group of friends. Danny and I have said we will stay in touch, but I can't see us being very close. My best friend, who I finally confided in, thinks I should just step away from them all now for good and try to move forward. My parents agree and think it's necessary for healing. My brother thinks Daniel has been nothing but great and I shouldn't cut him off. But they all seem to be a package deal, but without Alex now, obviously. So I think it's probably all or nothing. What should I do? I don't want to be ungrateful, but a clean break feels right. Update 3. I've been putting off writing this update, but am back because I need even more advice and an outside perspective. The comments have been pretty helpful so far. Thank you. It's long, but I'll do my best to shorten it. Trigger warnings for SA drugs violence. First of all, Danny and I have bonded. She and I talk every day and message constantly. I didn't expect that, but it's truly wonderful. She says she needs a good straight friend right now, and honestly, she is a great person and has been a huge support to me despite what she has been going through. I told her I posted here as I felt guilty as to tell my story. I had to tell hers. She was okay with it. She is thinking of waiving her right to anonymity when the trial comes, as she wants everyone to know she was SA'd and by who. Danny has quit her job, moved to her parents full-time, and is in therapy. She's just about okay. Surviving still rather than living, but she is so strong and amazing. Justice moves slowly here, so there isn't too much of an update on the legal process. Marcus was told, however, he would not face charges for assault for attacking the 2 actively attacking Danny. I went back to work and it was awful. I work for a tiny startup. Oscar, who works there, is friendly with Marcus and my brother. We are all into martial arts and attend the same dojo. So I'm getting a lot pity. I'd have been okay with sympathy or empathy, but being pitted sucks. Still, it's better than being home all day doing nothing. Daniel gave me space as I asked, and he is truly a good guy. There is nothing romantic there at all, though. I'm not in a fit state for anything like that, and won't be for a very, very long time, and he is just a good guy. No ulterior motives. We text a bit, and he is in a lot of contact with Danny. I got a letter in the mail from Alex. Said he held out hope while I hadn't blocked him, but once I did, he was distraught. He told me he doesn't want to freak me out by turning up in person, and I know that wouldn't look good for him anyway, but he just wanted to tell his side of the story. He said he was pressured into doing stuff with the escorts, and he only got a BJ. The other two were really pressuring him to do more, but he didn't, and says he regrets even doing that. He admits he was angry at Danny because she told him he either told me about the cheating, or she would, but he knew he was totally in the wrong. He knew I would dump him for cheating, so he took everything he could get his hands on. He's not even sure what he took, and while he remembers pulling off Danny's shoes, he doesn't remember anything else. So he was just peer pressured and drunk and drugged up, and he did nothing wrong at all, basically. I was just disgusted to read this. His total lack of accountability is just sickening. I'm not responding to him ever. Any future mail goes unopened into the trash. I'm in therapy, but it's early days, and it's not seeing progress yet. That leaves me with Marcus. He knows I've been angry with him, and he is desperate to talk it out. I probably feel too much anger towards him, but find it hard not to. He is still feeling very guilty over making Danny stay. I don't understand why I feel so angry towards him. It's not on the level of anger I feel towards Alex by any means, but I'm still hesitant to talk to him. I think he made mistakes, but in my heart I know he was dealing with a lot that morning, but I just wouldn't have been there when Alex got home if I had known the truth. I feel Marcus should have told me everything, as I was the one who had to face Alex alone. I know I should hear him out, but I'm finding it very hard. How can I get past this? I want to clear the air with him, even if we are never friends, and me cutting him out is really having a terrible effect on him. I know he rescued Danny and has been constantly checking up on her. I know he can be a good guy, but part of me feels he wasn't all good that weekend. I don't know. I haven't touched this in therapy as we are just starting and are talking about Alex. I need advice on how to deal with this. I wanted to give it some time, but Marcus' mental health is pretty poor, and maybe by not meeting him I am just making him worse? How can I find it in me to just bite the bullet and hear him out? Why am I so angry with him? How can I move past this? I don't want to be angry at him. I'm so exhausted from being angry at him and at Alex, and I want it to stop, at least towards Marcus. But it won't. Help. I'm visiting Danny for the weekend that should have been my wedding. We are going to have a Lotras marathon, and her mother is making a cheesecake. My own family have been wonderful in every way, but Danny is truly why I'm still standing. Edit. Forgot to say it wasn't an Airbnb. It was just a privately rented house. I just assumed incorrectly it was. Update for hey everyone. I honestly didn't think I'd be back here with more updates, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them, right? So, here I am again, and oh boy, it's been a whirlwind of a few weeks. Let's start with the weekend that should have been my wedding. So, Danny and I had our little LOTR marathon as planned. Her mom's cheesecake was a total hit, and for a while, we got to escape into the world of hobbits and elves and pretend like our lives weren't a complete train wreck. But of course, reality has a way of seeping back in. Right when Frodo was about to cast the ring into Mount Doom, iconic moment, right? My phone buzzed. It was from Marcus. This is where it gets messy. Marcus was not doing well, at all. He said he needed to see me, like, urgently. I didn't know what to do. Danny gave me this look, like, you don't owe him anything, but at the same time, I felt this gnawing guilt. He saved Danny, but I hadn't been able to shake the anger I felt toward him, and I knew deep down that I'd been avoiding facing it. It was eating me up. So, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him the next day at a coffee shop. Danny thought it was a bad idea, but I was starting to think the only way I could find peace was to get everything out in the open. So, we met. He looked rough. Like, really rough. He sat down across from me, and before I could even say anything, he just broke down. Right there in the middle of the damn cafe. People were staring, and I felt this weird mix of sympathy and discomfort. But as much as I'd been angry at him, seeing him like that shook me. He said everything about how guilty he felt for not taking Danny and leaving when she wanted to go, how he should have told me the truth about Alex immediately, and how he can't stop thinking that maybe if he'd just done something differently, everything would be okay. He's been spiraling ever since, and honestly, it scared me. He admitted he's been having dark thoughts, and I realized that while I was so focused on my anger, I hadn't even considered that maybe Marcus was going through his own personal hell. I told him how angry I was that he kept things from me, that I felt like he put his own selfish needs first, and that I couldn't trust him anymore. I didn't sugarcoat it, and it felt good to finally get it off my chest. But then he dropped a bombshell I wasn't expecting. Apparently, he's been seeing the girl he hooked up with that night, the one he met at the club, and not just casually. They've been together since that night, and it's gotten serious. But the twist? She was one of the escorts. Yeah, I know. I was floored. Marcus said he didn't know at first he was drunk, and she didn't tell him. But after they hooked up, she admitted it to him, and instead of being freaked out, he said he felt drawn to her. He's been spending more time with her, and now she's staying at his place. He even said he thinks he's falling for her. I don't even know how to process that. Here I am thinking Marcus was this morally upright guy who was one of the good ones. But now he's telling me he's essentially dating one of the escorts from that night? What's worse, he didn't think it was a big deal to tell me because he didn't want to burden me with more drama. I couldn't take it anymore. I got up, told him I needed time to think, and walked out. I think he shouted after me, but I didn't turn around. I needed to get away. I went back to Danny's place and told her everything. She was shocked too, but she didn't seem as surprised as I was. Maybe I've been naive about Marcus this whole time, thinking he was this noble guy when in reality, he's just as flawed and messed up as the rest of us. Danny hugged me and said she was there for me no matter what, but even she seemed a little unsure of what to make of Marcus' revelation. Now, I'm at a crossroads. Part of me feels like I should just cut Marcus out of my life entirely. He's made choices I don't understand, and I'm not sure if I can ever fully forgive him for keeping things from me and for getting involved with that woman. But another part of me feels like I've already lost so much: my relationship, my wedding, my sense of security, and cutting Marcus out too feels like another huge loss. And then there's Danny, who's still struggling to process everything, and I feel like I need to be there for her. To make things even crazier, I got another letter from Alex. I didn't open it this time, I couldn't, but the fact that he's still trying to reach out is just making me feel sick. What more could he possibly have to say? I don't know what to do anymore. It's like every time I think I've hit rock bottom, the floor gives way and I fall even further. Danny says I need to take care of myself first, but honestly, I don't even know what that looks like anymore. My therapist is great, but it feels like we're just scratching the surface of everything. There's so much I haven't even processed yet. So yeah, that's where I'm at. It's messy, and I don't have any clear answers. Part of me thinks I should just burn it all down and start fresh-cut ties with Marcus, Alex, and everyone connected to that nightmare weekend. But then, another part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh, too quick to push people away in the name of self-preservation. Update 5. So, after my last update, everything just felt like it was spiraling out of control. I couldn't focus at work, I couldn't sleep, and it felt like my life was one constant barrage of drama and chaos. Marcus kept texting me, Danny was struggling, and Alex's letters kept piling up unopened in my kitchen drawer, like little bombs waiting to go off. I was cracking. I needed an escape, something, anything, to just get away from all of it. So, on a whim, I packed up and decided to head out of town for a few days, completely unannounced. I didn't even tell Danny. I went to a remote cabin in the woods. Sounds cliche, I know, but I needed solitude, somewhere I could think and just breathe. The first night there was quiet, peaceful even. I sat by the fireplace, just letting the silence soak in, but I could still feel this gnawing tension inside me, like there were too many unresolved things pulling at my mind. I hadn't even been able to get therapy that week. ID canceled my session and disappeared. So, in the middle of that dead of night quiet, I did something maybe I shouldn't have. I opened the drawer I had stashed Alex's letters in and started reading them. I know. It was probably a bad idea, but I had to know. It started the way his previous letters had, full of self-pity and excuses. He tried again to blame the drugs, the alcohol, and his mistakes. But buried halfway through, things took a sharp turn. He confessed, in brutal detail, to things I hadn't even known about: the drugs they'd been taking that weekend, how it had all started with him. He even admitted that he was the one who had ordered the escorts in the first place. He said he was trying to one-up Marcus and Daniel, to feel like he was in control again after Danny had rejected him years ago. I felt sick reading it, knowing that all the pieces of this puzzle were much darker than I had ever imagined. Then came the last part of the letter, and this is where it all hit the fan. Alex said he had decided to leave the country. He didn't give specifics, just that he had connections overseas, which, in retrospect, I realized was probably code for something illegal, and he wanted to start over somewhere new. But before he left, he wanted to meet with me one last time. He said he needed closure, needed to explain things properly, to me face to face. The letter ended with him begging me to meet him at a specific cafe, in a few days, at a specific time. I didn't know what to do. On one hand, I was terrified. I wanted nothing more to do with Alex. But on the other hand, there was this part of me, the part that had been in a relationship with him for 2 years, that needed to see him, to confront him, and end this nightmare once and for all. Against my better judgment, I made up my mind to go. Fast forward to the day of the meeting. I went to the cafe and got there early, my heart pounding in my chest the entire time. I didn't know what I was expecting, maybe some grand confession, maybe even an apology. But instead, what happened was something straight out of a movie. Alex showed up and he wasn't alone. Danny and Marcus were both there with him. My stomach dropped when I saw them walk in together. Like some twisted reunion, the tension in the air was suffocating. Danny looked pale but determined. Marcus was a mess, his eyes darting between me and Alex like he didn't know what was about to happen. And Alex? He had this strange look on his face like he was ready for a final showdown. Before I could even get a word out, Danny stepped forward. She didn't wait for any pleasantries. She just went right into it. "You think you can just leave the country and escape this?" she said, her voice cold as ice. "There's no running from this, Alex." Marcus stood there, looking like he wanted to crawl out of his skin. He tried to speak up, but Danny shut him down with a glare. "You think this is just going to go away?" she continued. "That you can start over somewhere new and pretend none of this happened? No, you're going to face what you did." And that's when Danny did something that completely blindsided me. She pulled out her phone and showed me a message. It was from Alex's supposed contact overseas. But here's the kicker, it wasn't some shady underworld figure. It was an investigator. Turns out, Danny had hired a private investigator after everything went down, and they had been tracking Alex's every move, waiting for him to slip up. His plan to flee the country had been blown wide open. I looked at Alex, waiting for him to explode in anger, but all he did was laugh. This strange, bitter laugh. "You don't get it," he said, shaking his head. "You're not going to win. I'm already gone." And with that, Alex just turned and walked out of the cafe. Just like that. No final words. No grand confrontation. He just left. Danny and I were standing there, stunned. Marcus tried to follow him, but I stopped him. "Let him go," I said. And we did. We let him walk out of our lives, for good this time. In the days that followed, I found out that Alex did, indeed, attempt to flee the country, but Danny's investigator and the authorities caught him before he could make it to the airport. He's now facing charges for everything from the assault to the drugs, to his attempt to flee. The legal process will be long and messy, but at least I know he'll face justice, one way or another. As for Marcus and Danny, well, things got complicated. After the cafe incident, Marcus tried to reach out to me again, desperate for forgiveness. But I realized something. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need his guilt weighing me down anymore. So, I made the decision to cut ties with him, for good this time. It was hard, but necessary. He's got his own demons to face, and I can't be dragged down into that chaos anymore. Danny, though, she's become my rock. We've forged a bond that I never expected, and we're both healing together, in our own ways. She's staying with her parents still, but we talk every day, and she's starting to regain some of the light that this whole mess had stolen from her. We've got each other's backs, and that's something I'm eternally grateful for.